This project is eating my life. Maybe in a good way. I'm trying to get a whole furniture collection into the Art in the Pearl show in Portland, and I have until February to make 4 portfolio quality pieces conforming to my nebulous vision as detailed in a previous short. You can watch it by clicking the link here. Suffice it to say, the vision is austere, ancient, alien weirdness, and I'm really pumped that this iteration of the current entry is a step in the right direction. This first entry is a floor chair. It's meant to ultimately slide under a coffee table along with a matching chair or 3 and be comfortable enough to sit upright and play cards on the table or to lean back and enjoy a movie. As you ask yourself, what is even austere, ancient, or alien about this? I point out that at least it's weird. And if shown to the same 1920s crowd that rioted at the first performance of Rite of Spring, or was horrified in the 50s by the vast rednesses of Barnett Newman, they would overreact in some memorable way and not ask so many questions. I learned from the first iteration, which you can watch here, that black is the wrong color, by a country mile. Let wood be wood, especially when it looks as nice as maple. I also learned that 20 inches is not wide enough, staircases are pokey, and people love an armrest. Finally, striking a blow for art and comfort, I'm going with louvers as the seat surface. This is the first time I've gotten a second crack at the same project, and I'm not wasting the opportunity to put everything I've learned about process into action. At the same time, I'm open to trying new things. Speaking of new things, thanks to my perfect wife Leah for the saw stop. It came with a hat. I used both liberally in the completion of this project. From the beginning, I started with the usual, rough boards. The silverbacks would have you thinking that to get dimensional lumber, you need to joint 2 adjacent faces to get smooth sides, 90 degrees from each other. I'm thinking that I only need to use the jointer, if at all, to flatten any faces with excessive cupping or twisting, and having a helical head might get me less tear out than planing. Here's my thinking. In calculus, unless you bought your boards from Weierstrass himself, every board is everywhere continuous and at least locally flat. My construction element is these 4-inch squares, so I don't care too much about minor cupping or twisting or any of that nonsense. At the size scale I'm actually using to make the chair, none of that will matter. How does this save me time? Well, I can rip my maple into 4.5-inch strips, plane both faces to the final dimension of 1.25 inches, chop them on the chop saw into 4-inch rectangles, then use the table saw again to get the square, plumb, true, and gorgeous. In fact, this is what I regret not doing. Next time for sure. This chair calls for 44 perfect little squares. I make about 50, assuming I'm probably going to bugger a few of them at least, and any leftovers would be used on the production variant of the glorious remunerative future. With my 49 squares in hand, it's time for the harrowing bit, cutting the pyramids. Even without a CNC router, I actually have several decent choices for how to do this, which I'll rank on speed, repeatability, finishedness, and safety. Round 1, I did the combination of chop saw and sander. This made sense with pine, which is soft, and last time the squares were 1/4 inch thicker, thus putting my precious fingers that much further out of harm's way. It's B's across the board for speed, repeatability, and finishedness, but a D for safety. Changing to much harder maple, 20% closer to my knuckles, and this technique is unfortunately a non-starter this time. My new choice was to put a 1/2-inch blade in the bandsaw, tilt the table to 7 degrees, and follow the pencil line, followed by a finish sand. C, D, D for speed, repeatability, and finishedness, but that bandsaw doesn't scare me. So, A for safety. Maybe I'm stupid, but I think I could take it. That sucker's old. Being frustrated with my inability to follow a line, granted through 4 inches of maple, I brilliantly decided, about 20 squares in, to use the table saw to score a 1/4 inch line, straight as anything, about 3/16 thick, that's or maybe it's an eighth, I don't know, whatever the kerf of the blade is, to follow with the bandsaw. I gotta tell you, the new table saw is a drug. At 240 volts, this puppy's 3 horsepower eats. It serves. And I realized that if I'm willing to sacrifice speed, I might get the repeatability and finishness I do so crave. And safety, well, at least it's a saw stop. Basically, the final iteration of pyramid cutting was to cut 1 inch with an 80-tooth blade on the table saw, as this is shallow enough that the saw isn't struggling to make a beautiful finish cut, so no burning, and my fingers are still a good ways from the action. Then, do it all again with the final depth and Bob's your uncle. The real gain from the table saw technique is that with 2 passes on the finished blade, I hardly need the belt sander to remove scorch marks and can skip straight to the 220 grit and start sweating the glue up. By the way, if you're enjoying the video, hit that like and subscribe button, support me on Ko-fi, buy a chair, milk my duds, swizzle my nizzle, I don't care, I'm just happy you're here. Now I have 44 pyramids and a chair that is just a mote in God's eye. Last time I used a biscuit joiner to get these boys flush, but you know, I spent a whole afternoon sanding creases on the hard side, the pyramid side. This time I cut myself a little block 7 degrees from square, double stickied that bad boy in the joiner, and that let me get in level biscuits from the pyramid side. The results were still imperfect because I am not Feanor, Lord of the Noldor, but a novice woodworker with a penchant for the dramatic. Still, a low-effort improvement is the very grist of good engineering. I even took a side quest, unfortunately not pictured, to visit my friend, Tuk Tuk Morningstar, at his engineering prototype laboratory to catch a 3D print of the mold I hope to use in round 3 to make the squaring of those pyramid edges even more precise, accurate, and easy. This is the prototype. Imagine a dozen of these lifting pyramids above the Giza Plateau, arranging them neatly by their razor edges with uncanny ease to be glued for all eternity. I think Imhotep was an alien. This time, in the absence of alien technology, I was happy enough with the results to get gluing. Note: I have not yet figured out when gluing up to prevent bowing, one way or the other, in response to clamping pressure. I've tried backing off the pressure, but sometimes I gotta close gaps, and the glue's drying, and I just gotta accept a little warp that I hope I can work around later. The TikTok man says repent and he keeps account, so if anyone has a trick to do this bit flat, let's hear it in the comments. The cutting of the miters was a breeze. I took it slow, everything was already nice and square, and the only trick I used this time was taking the staircase pairs as crutches to make sure there was good contact with the fence. Smooth as silk, no issues. Before final glue up, we get to the new and horrible gauntlet that was these louvers. First mistake, not enough wood. I get to have 9 that are of the same origin as the squares, but the same number are coming from an elder wood hoard and are harder, of a lighter hue, and of lesser grain. So it goes. I made myself a nice template for the curvature I should wish to achieve, finally, and set about making it so, with a combination of routing, jigsawing, not forgetting to mirror the cuts into my staircase sides, and painstaking chisels. By the way, do not neglect sharpening these guys, it makes a world of difference. I have at last 3 panels ready for assembly. Right, the louvers. I made those too. Table saw, planer, bandsaw, sander. Here we go. Glue up was another chance to showcase my capacity to learn. The louvers had to be installed first, and I actually had some experience with this brand of nightmare. An unrealized video, inhabiting the heaven of imagined things, shows me working this out for the kitchen tower I built in May. Leo wanted a forest of dowels to constrain our nice amber plates vertically, and I obliged. Suffice it to say, that was easy, and louvers were hard. The hints are: chamfer everything, go light on the glue, clamp liberally, and be patient. For the current project, the plan was to install louvers first, but not before drilling some very nice holes for dowels, which would help in aligning the panels, because these are plain miters, and the gods help those who help themselves. The louvers require clamping in one direction, so the panels would need to come normal to that, hence weird drilling. Thankfully it worked. Here we are, an assembled chair. The joints are a bit rubbish, and the louvers rattle. Now I spend a whole day gluing and re-gluing. Ah, ew. Using wood filler, sanding, and being miserable. I won't dwell on it because I hate this shit. I am not Geppetto. I never will be, and I prize the idea while forgiving the execution. At this point, I'm in the dumps because I do not like how this turned out. It is not an A project. I slap the armrests on and decide to sand it with some tried and true varnish oil because why not? I've never used it before, but it can't be that bad. It's fine. It's kind of like honey consistency, and spreading honey tears the lint out of my cheap rag, but I can rub it off later, and I do. Now I have the chair, and the way my mind works makes it difficult to appreciate how sumptuous the wood looks and the overall beauty of this iteration because I'm already wallowing in the joy of having mentally designed its successor, which will be the third and final installment in this series. For me to make it to Art in the Pearl, I need 3 more portfolio pieces by February, or about 1 every other month, so 3 iterations per piece or per project is a bit generous. I'll save my reflections for the next video, which should be the last installment, a triumphant trip to space and a proud moment for I'll be in the garage. Thanks for being here. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, then I invite you to please do so, and I hope to see you all again.